Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues, hola y bien día. Nos estamos muito felices de estar en Portugal, na bellissima Coimbra. Welcome to this regional meeting of the World Trade Summit, which promises already now to be one of the great meetings in the system of the World Health Summit. We have high-level participants from government, from the city, from the European Union, from universities, but we also have students and young people, and that is so important. We also have, as I just learned, regional participation from Germany, from the northern part of Germany, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, actually the area where Chancellor Merkel is coming from, and I welcome the delegation from Mecklenburg-Vorpommern particularly, which shows how important global health is also for regional development. And we can learn a lot from global effects for what we do locally in our own communities. In the 10-year history of the World Trade Summit, we started off, of course, with a meeting in Berlin in 2009 at the 300-year anniversary of the Charité University Medicine Berlin. But this then has developed into a worldwide movement with regional meetings every year in the country of the international president of the M8 Alliance, with expert meetings around the world, action initiatives, and a very lively network at all levels. And this is all for the noble cause of improving global health. Now, this, of course, cannot be done alone. And this is why at the origin of this movement, we had the creation of the so-called M8 Alliance, which was tailored after the G8 political summit, actually in 2007, with the support and encouragement of Chancellor Merkel when she organized the G8 summit in Heiligendamm. She was, and the members, the heads of state of the G8 summit, thought that it would be important to create a group of continuity to maintain health on the top agenda of the heads of state. And this was the birth of the M8 Alliance, first with major academic institutions from the G8 countries. We had what we call a smart growth. We included everybody, actually, who wanted to really participate in a serious manner and contribute to the noble cause of global health. Now, since not all countries can participate, but most of the countries with a scientific infrastructure have national academies of medicine and of science and humanities. These national academies are now members of the M8 Alliance. They are grouped together in a legal entity called the Inter-Academy Partnership, and the Inter-Academy Partnership for Health is part of this M8 Alliance. So in a way, we are a world-spanning organization devoted to improve global health. And this is not just having meetings and getting together. We also, of course, want to have effects. And one of the important effects, in addition to regional development, is that we have to maintain and actually have actual topics of global health on the main political agenda. And that is why agenda setting, strategic discussions and agenda setting are one of the important effects of these summits, World Health Summit, regional meetings and expert meetings and other activities which we have. And you will have noticed that at the last G20 meeting in Hamburg, health played a very important role, and the next G20 meeting in Argentina, it will again be the same. Now, of course, the academic backbone of the M8 Alliance and the think tank is one important factor. The other one is that we cannot do it alone. Academia can have ideas, but we have to put them on the road in a way. And this is one by agenda setting with the political leaders around the world. The other one is that ideas need to be translated into clinical practice. They need to translate it into better health of populations, and this can only be done by having products of these ideas, translation of ideas into products. This is the reason why we have to collaborate with the private sector and with the industry. This is not always easy and it's not completely uncontested, but it is important that we maintain this interaction with all sectors, and this also includes, of course, civil society. There is no way in democratic countries that you can implement anything if society does not want to have this implemented and put into reality. So collaboration with civil society and its organizations is part of our philosophy, and that is why all the non-governmental organizations, NGOs, including the important ones which are devoted entirely to global health, such as the Global Alliance for Vaccination, Gavi, the Global Fund, Médecins Sans Frontières, and many others are part of our system. Now, what are the topics? The topics, of course, come from basic science, and our programs always include the best of science in the laboratory. And we then always ask the question, how can this be translated? Is it mature to be translated into clinical practice, into population health? And I'll give you some examples how important it is to have this chain of translation from basic research to global health. And one, as you all know, one important topic is antimicrobial resistance. Before penicillin, and we have seen this wonderful film when the flu epidemic was there and there were no drugs. Hundreds and thousands of people died because doctors were just not able to treat these patients. When penicillin came, of course, the picture changed. And all of a sudden, there were antibiotics to kill bacteria and to cure infectious diseases. But these antibiotics have not been dealt with as they should have. There was a wide distribution, and there was misuse in various ways, which I don't want to detail, so that in many instances, these antibiotics are not effective anymore. And in some instances, people have infectious diseases which could have been cured, but no longer can be cured because there is resistance of these bacteria and other vectors of infection. So we'll have to now look at new antibiotics. On the one way, this is research, and there is actually a secretariat to coordinate that globally just be put in place. But in addition, we have to make sure that in practice and in populations, the distribution and the use is done in a way that follows scientific advice and which is not widespread as it is in many regions of the world, by the way, including my own country, much too much. So this is one topic where translation from basic research to population and global health and backwards is so important. Another one is nutrition. We all know how important nutrition is and food is for survival. But nutrition in many countries is kind of industrialized in a way that the type of food people are eating contains too much sugar, too much fat, too much salt, and the consequences are obesity and diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and many others. Now there is a new science called the microbiome, and actually there was already this morning a meeting on the microbiome, a new science that we can now much better understand how nutrition feeds back to the organism itself, but then also into many aspects of nutrition, effects of nutrition, going much beyond just obesity and diabetes, as important as they are, including the immune system and infectious diseases and so on. Nutrition is such an important factor. And this chain, again, of research to health of populations and backwards is one other example. We have heard this morning, actually, by a wonderful young Portuguese scientist working at the Charité in Berlin. That's why I know her personally. The biological clock. The Nobel Prize was just given to this type of work, unfortunately not to Angela, who would have deserved it, of course. The biological clock gives us completely new ideas about the sleep and wake rhythm in the whole body, but also in cells, and a much better understanding of circadian rhythm and health and disease, mental health, and many other effects. Just one other example, and the final one I want to mention in basic research is genomics. Genomics was considered once a very basic type of understanding of biological phenomenon. Now we have genomic health, and by looking at genomic risk factors, we can stratify populations and develop new treatments, new prevention measures by genomic analysis, which was not thought of some years ago. It's a new phenomenon. And just to take some other example, which is not out in the area of biology, but possibly equally important, probably more even important, and that is climate research. That's the research. How is climate changing? That's not easily done, and not just by measuring the temperature. It's an extremely complex system, the climate system of the world. But we know that climate has extreme consequences on health. Just in giving one example, the vectors of infectious diseases, malaria and others, going with the climate and affecting population. There was in the film Zika example, going with climate and in specific climate regions. And this again will be a translation from basic research to major political decisions. These are all topics where scientists, politicians, civil society, and also the industry have to come together and work together. What is needed? Of course, we need excellent science. We need facts. We have to believe in facts. We have to communicate the facts to those that people and politicians, non-specialized people understand what's going on. We have to be critical and self-critical. We don't know what's right or wrong. We always have to question ourselves. We have to be completely transparent. We have to completely open, especially also for new ideas. And importantly, easily said, not easily done, we have to respect the declared interest of and open attitudes of stakeholders with their specific interests. This applies to the private sector, but also applies, of course, to politics and also applies to all other areas of groups participating. There is no place in global health, it's much too important, for hidden agendas, and I add, no place for corruption. We have to be completely open and transparent in what we are doing, and that's why we need these public meetings. We do this together, not just with the think tank and the network of science. We have to do it together, and this is the global aspect with the global international organizations at the national, at the international, and supranational level, especially with the United Nations and the United Nations family, especially, of course, with the WHO, but beyond WHO, for example, UNESCO, because education is the best, vaccination is education, maybe as important than just knowing how drugs act and how to apply drugs and other measures of health. We also, in politics, have to include all kinds of politics. It's not just research. It's not just the ministers of health who are, of course, most welcome and extremely important, but we have health security. We know from Ebola crisis that health can destabilize regions. We need economics. Health is one of the most important economic factor, actually much larger than even the automobile industry, which is so much in the forefront of discussions, especially in the present time, and all the other politics have to be included, including external foreign policy. So we call for health in all policies, agendas, in governments and in international organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, let me conclude. Health and global health is a noble cause. We have to work together. Nobody alone can achieve what we need to achieve: better health and well-being for 7 billion people on this earth, and not just for the privileged in the rich countries. For this, we need functional networks. And we need, in science, people who think beyond their own scientific problems. And I'll give you a very personal example. I started off as a basic scientist and studied just a small molecule called angiotensin. Some in the hypertension cardiovascular area, in the medical area, will know that. From there on, I went to larger systems, cardiovascular systems, and then I went into management, and now I'm out of management and now involved in global health. I'm saying that because it took time to understand that just a minuscule problem is not sufficient as important you may consider it for yourself. We have also in science think beyond our own problems. We have to think beyond our own faculty or our disciplines. Global health is more than medicine. Global health is humanities. Global health is economics. Global health is climate research. And this is, if we look at universities, we still are separated in faculties and laboratories, and thinking beyond is not just being asked from politicians and other groups in society, is also asked from the scientists themselves. We have to be self-critical and see the global picture. Coimbra is a great example. We have seen the long history of medical developments. Coimbra is one of the intellectual centers in the world, in the Portuguese Empire, if I may say so, in former times, and now as one of the major players also in the MAID Alliance, giving us advice how research can be structured and how whole universities, including the medical faculties, are devoted to the cause to improve global health. This meeting, I'm sure, will inspire us to go this way, to come together, to get disciplines together, the various sectors of society, but also the sectors of science, and this cross-sectoral thinking for an important humanitarian cause. This is what drives our enthusiasm, and I'm very thankful that you organized this meeting here in the wonderful city of Coimbra. I'm sure this will be in the history una mara vilgosa regional meeting, and meu muito obrigado pela viso incrível hospitalidade. Thank you very much.